Subscribe for more deep dives into science, mystery, and the unexplained before we get into this one, because what researchers recently uncovered about Stonehenge has genuinely surprised even longtime experts. For nearly 1,000 years, Stonehenge has stood on Salisbury Plain in southern England as one of the most recognizable and most argued about monuments on Earth. Generations of historians, archaeologists, astronomers, and amateur theorists have tried to answer the same basic questions. Who built it? How did they move stones weighing many tons across such vast distances using nothing but Neolithic technology? And perhaps most importantly, why? Before I go further, I want to be upfront about something because it matters for how you should take in this video. Despite the dramatic framing you may have seen elsewhere online claiming that an AI system has solved Stonehenge once and for all, no AI tool, including Grok or any other large language model, has access to secret data, hidden archives, or magical insight that human archaeologists don't already have. What AI systems like Grok can genuinely do is help researchers rapidly cross-reference enormous data sets, spot statistical patterns across thousands of archaeological papers, and generate hypotheses faster than a human working alone. And in recent years, this kind of AI-assisted pattern analysis has, in fact, been used alongside traditional archaeology to support some genuinely compelling new theories about Stonehenge's origin and purpose. This video walks through what real archaeological research has established, what AI-assisted analysis has recently added to the picture, and why so many of the more recent findings are genuinely unsettling once you understand the full scale of what Neolithic Britain's builders actually accomplished. Stonehenge wasn't built in a single moment. Archaeological excavation has established that the site went through multiple distinct construction phases spanning roughly 1,500 years, beginning around D3000 BCE and continuing with major modifications until approximately 1500 BCE. The earliest phase involved a simple circular ditch and bank enclosure, along with a ring of pits known as the Aubrey Holes, named after John Aubrey, the 17th century antiquarian who first identified them. For centuries, archaeologists debated what these pits were actually used for, with theories ranging from timber post holes to cremation burial sites. Excavations throughout the 20th and 21st centuries confirmed that at least some of the Aubrey holes did contain cremated human remains, suggesting that at long before the massive stones we associate with Stonehenge today were ever erected, the site was already functioning as a significant burial ground, quite possibly one of the largest cremation cemeteries known from Neolithic Britain. The stones themselves arrived in distinct waves, and this is where the story becomes genuinely remarkable from an engineering perspective, AI-assisted analysis or not. The smaller stones, known as bluestones, weighing between 2 and 5 tons each, have been geologically traced to the Priestley Hills in western Wales, a staggering distance of roughly 150 miles from Stonehenge's location on Salisbury Plain. For decades, the leading theory held that these stones were transported using a combination of wooden sledges, rollers, and ropes, dragged overland by large groups of borers, though some researchers propose that at least part of the journey may have involved transporting the stones by water, using rafts along coastal and river routes. In 2011, a specific outcrop within the Priestley Hills called Craig Rhos Yfelin was identified through detailed geochemical analysis as the precise quarry source for a significant portion of the bluestones, complete with clear evidence of Neolithic quarrying tools and techniques found directly at the site, essentially catching the ancient builders in the act, geologically speaking. The larger stones, known as sarsens, weighing up to 25 tons each and forming the iconic outer circle and trilithon horseshoe that most people picture when they think of Stonehenge, were long assumed to have come from the relative Ely nearby Marlborough Downs, roughly 20 miles from the site. This assumption held for centuries until a 2020 study, using advanced geochemical analysis of a core sample extracted from one of the sarsens' decading. Earlier and only rediscovered in storage, definitively traced the origin of the vast majority of the sarsen stones to West Woods, a specific wooded area in Wiltshire, located almost exactly the distance and direction that earlier theories had predicted. This was a case where traditional geochemistry, not AI, provided the breakthrough, but it illustrates exactly the kind of painstaking, evidence-based detective work that has always driven genuine progress in understanding Stonehenge, work that AI tools are now beginning to accelerate and expand upon, by helping researchers process the sheer volume of geological, archaeological, and astronomical data involved. This brings us to the astronomical alignment of Stonehenge, which has fascinated researchers since as early as the 18th century, and which forms the foundation of the site's most widely accepted purpose. Stonehenge's main axis aligns remarkably precisely with the sunrise on the summer solstice and the sunset on the winter solstice. Stand a T, the center of the monument on the summer solstice, and the sun rises directly over what's known as the heel stone, a large, roughly shaped standing stone positioned outside the main circle along the Eni, northeastern approach. This alignment is far too precise to be coincidental, and it strongly suggests that whatever ceremonial or religious purpose Stonehenge served, D, tracking and marking these specific solar events, was central to it. Some researchers have proposed that the winter solstice alignment may actually have been the more significant of the two, given evidence found at nearby Neolithic settlements, particularly Durrington Walls at Imlow, located just 2 miles from Stonehenge, which appears to have been a large seasonal settlement where feasting and gathering activities, evidenced by enormous quantities of animal bones, showing signs of winter slaughter, seem to have been timed around the winter solstice period. This is where more recent AI-assisted research has genuinely added new dimensions to our understanding, rather than simply repeating what TRSI additional archaeology had already established. Researchers working with large-scale pattern analysis tools, including AI systems capable of rapidly cross-referencing astronomical data, archaeological site distributions, and geological survey information across thousands of Neolithic sites throughout Britain and Ireland, have identified potential connections between Stonehenge's layout and broader astronomical alignments found at other geographically distant ant-monuments from the same general era. Rather than viewing Stonehenge as an isolated marvel, this K-end of large-scale comparative analysis, the exact type of task AI systems excel at handling faster than human researchers working manually, has strengthened the theory that Stonehenge was part of a much larger, interconnected network of ceremonial and astronomical monuments spanning Neolithic Britain, all potentially reflecting a shared, sophisticated understanding of solar and lunar cycles that T spread across the region through cultural exchange and possibly organized religious or political coordination between distant communities. One of the more genuinely unsettling implications that emerges when you fully absorb the scale of this evidence isn't some hidden secret Stonehenge was concealing, but rather what it reveals about the sheer level of organized human cooperation and long-term planning that Neolithic British society was capable of roughly 5,000 years ago. Ars Ego, using technology limited to stone, wood, bone, and rope, with no writing system to coordinate plans across generations. Transporting bluestones 150 miles from Wales, whether overland, by water, or some combination of both, would have required sustained cooperation between different communities across that entire route. Planning that likely spanned not just months, but potentially generations, given that construction phases at Essen, Stonehenge stretched across roughly 1,500 years. This means the people who began the earliest phases of construction almost certainly never lived to see the monument completed in the form we recognize today, and Tihi knowledge, purpose, and cultural or religious significance. Dr. Iving this project had to be successfully transmitted across dozens of generations, entirely through oral tradition, for the project to continue and evolve as it did. This is genuinely one of the more sobering aspects of what Stonehenge represents once you step back from the mystery framing and consider the raw human achievement involved. A society without writing, without metal tools, capable of easily quarrying and shaping 25-ton stones, without wheel, D-vehicles suitable for hauling that kind of weight across rough terrain, managed to conceive of, plan, and execute a monumental construction project spanning a millennium and a half, requiring precise astronomical knowledge, accurate enough to align massive stone structures with solar events to within a degree or two of accuracy, knowledge that had to be observed, recorded through oral tradition or symbolic representation, and then physically translated into architecture by communities working together across vast distances and generational gaps. When you consider that comparable, large-scale engineering achievements from other ancient civilizations, like the pyramids of Giza, were built by centralized hierarchical societies with writing systems, standing armies of laborers, and relatively short construction timelines measured in decades rather than centuries, Stonehenge's achievement, accomplished by a decentralized, likely tribal society without writing, spanning 15 centuries of sustained cultural continuity, becomes even more remarkable and, honestly, a little unsettling in what it suggests about how much organized human capability existed in prehistory that conventional narratives about primitive Stone Age societies have historically underestimated. Recent AI-assisted analysis has also contributed to ongoing research into who exactly the people building and using Stonehenge actually were, largely through helping researchers process and cross-reference the growing body of ancient DNA data being extracted from burial sites across Britain. Genetic analysis of remains found at and near Stonehenge, combined with broader ancient DNA studies across Neolithic and Bronze Age Britain, has revealed something genuinely significant. The population responsible for Stonehenge's earlier construction phases appears to have been almost entirely replaced, within a few centuries of the monument's completion by a new population Megek. Raiding from continental Europe, associated with what archaeologists call the Bell Beaker culture, who arrived carrying distinct genetic ancestry linked to steppe populations that had earlier spread across much of Europe. This replacement appears to have happened remarkably quickly and thoroughly, with genetic studies suggesting that within a relatively short period, perhaps just a few hundred years, the original Neolithic farming population responsible for building Stonehenge's earliest phases was largely displaced, genetically speaking, by these new arrivals, even though the monument itself, continued to be used, modified, and expanded by the incoming population. This finding raises a genuinely fascinating and slightly unsettling question that AI-assisted comparative analysis across multiple archaeological datasets has helped bring into sharper focus. Did the people who inherited Stonehenge from its original builders actually understand its original purpose, or were they essentially adopting and reinterpreting a monument built by a population that had, for reasons still not fully understood, largely vanished from the genetic record within a few generations of completing one of the most sophisticated engineering achievements of the ancient world? Some researchers have proposed that Stonehenge's continued use and modification by the incoming Bell Beaker population may represent an early example of cultural memory and monument reuse, where new arrivals recognized the significance of an existing sacred site and incorporated it into their own belief systems, even without fully understanding or replicating the original astronomical and engineering knowledge that had gone into its initial construction phases. None of this points toward the kind of supernatural or conspiracy-driven explanation that sensationalized headlines sometimes imply when they claim an AI has uncovered some hidden or terrifying truth about Stonehenge. What the genuine research, both traditional archaeological work and newer AI-assisted comparative analysis, actually reveals is something that, in its own way, is far more compelling than any conspiracy theory. Physical proof that Neolithic and early Bronze Age societies in Brita possessed a level of organizational capability, astronomical knowledge, engineering skill, and multi-generational cultural continuity that conventional narratives about prehistoric primitive societies have consistently underestimated, alongside genuine evidence of a significant population replacement that raises real, still partially unanswered questions about cultural transmission and continuity surrounding one of the most significant monuments ever constructed by prehistoric humans. Stonehenge, even after centuries of dedicated study and increasingly sophisticated scientific analysis, still hasn't given up all of its secrets. We know where the stones came from, we know roughly when different phases of construction occurred, we understand the solar alignments with genuine precision, and we're beginning to understand who built it and who inherited it. But the deeper questions, exactly what specific rituals took place there, exactly what belief system originally motivated a 15th century construction project, and exactly how knowledge and purpose were successfully transmitted across so many generations without writing, remain genuinely open. And it's likely that AI-assisted research, working alongside traditional archaeology rather than replacing it, will continue to LP researchers uncover new pieces of this puzzle in the years ahead, even if the full picture remains, for now, frustratingly incomplete. If you found this breakdown of what we genuinely know about Stonehenge and what AI-assisted research has recently added to that picture interesting, let us know in the comments what ancient mystery you'd like us to dig into next, and subscribe for more deep dives into archaeology, ancient history, and the ongoing scientific detective work still unraveling humanity's prehistoric past.